Man, what a day. President Trump has negotiated with President Putin. They're going to sit down and hammer out a ceasefire. And at the very same time, Israel is ramping up a new war in the Middle East. We're kind of pulling against ourselves here. Things are going in opposite directions. On the one hand, we're dialing it down. And on the other hand, we're dialing it up. Boy, that's a little confusing. You know, in psychological terms, we call that double binding, which is also known as crazy making behavior. Let's hear from our fearless leader, John Fredericks, of this radio network on his report of yesterday's news that matters.
Here live at the White House, very lively press conference today led by Carolyn Leavitt, press secretary. First of all, President Trump addressing the storms. He says he's monitoring the situations. His heart goes out for the people who are suffering during this, and he promised aid $1 million immediately. He also said, as far as strafe bombing the Houthis yesterday, he said that billions of dollars have been wasted with the Houthis attacking U.S. commercial vessels. He said this has gone unabated for a year. Biden administration didn't do anything. They were totally feckless. It's been 1 year since we've gotten a commercial U.S. vessel through the Suez Canal without a military escort. He said he had enough, and he said, and then I asked the question, what happens if the Houthis retaliate? And he said, Carolyn said, the president put a statement out last night that if the Houthis retaliate in any way over this bombing, that he's going to personally hold Iran accountable for this. I asked a follow-up question what that would look like, and she read me a statement that basically said bad things are going to be in store for Iran, and not to basically test this president because he has no patience for the nonsense that's going on. A lot of time spent on the Alien Enemies Act, and President Trump yesterday deporting at least 250 TDA terrorists. Also, some of these were MS gang members, MS-13 gang members. Two of them, they said, were MS gang leaders. These people were responsible for rapes and murders all over the United States. She also pointed out that they had captured and were controlling this apartment complex in Aurora. As you know, I was the one that broke that story. The fake news basically said it was not true. Now we know it is. She pointed that out. She was asked about the rogue judge's ruling about that he can't invoke the Alien Enemies Act and deport terrorists, and she said that it was in compliance because all 250 that were on that plane, when the plane took off, the order was not in writing. It was just a verbal order of which has no authority, but they intend to argue that in court today. Also, the president going to the Kennedy Center today, taking a tour, sure will have some recommendations. And he said that his main objective there is he wants to restore traditional American values to the Kennedy Center and not the nonsense that's going on. They also talked about the free fall of the Democratic Party right now. A new poll just came out, negatively viewed by 55%, positively viewed by 27%. Total disaster for the Republicans. Now, for the Democrats, breaking news, President Trump has a call tonight with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Carolyn Leavitt making the statement that we were on the 10-yard line of peace, and the president looking in this conversation to get this deal done. She also talked about the economy and basically the Wall Street bedwetters and the tariff fights and everything else that are all like buckling at the knees. And she said, just stand up, grow a pair, everything is going to be fine.
That's our fearless leader, John Fredericks, here on the John Fredericks Radio Network. Let me suggest that John, now that he is a part of the White House press pool and is in the mix, he's quite busy. Please follow him on X, John Fredericks Radio Network. Follow him on Getter. Please, let's give all of our support to John. And one of the things we can do to support John, because he is in the thick of it, he really can't even pay attention to his business right now. He's depending on us, you and me, the people that support him, to support his advertisers, one of which is TireGet.com. That's a tire company that John and I share here on the John Fredericks Radio Network. It's 11 different brands. They're all at the right price. Great customer service. Nobody's going to get clipped. There's no scams at TireGet. No, we're going to give you an honest answer to any question you have, whatever it might be. And we're going to put these tires on. We're going to mount them and balance them anywhere in the United States, right by your house. Use the Godzilla code for 3% off the tire part of your purchase. It's really the fastest and easiest and, quite frankly, the cheapest way to get tires in the United States. And we're moving quickly to TireGet.com version 3.0, making it even easier for you to acquire your tires here as a John Fredericks Radio Network listener and viewer. Why do I dwell on this? Even though President Trump is in the White House, even though we're enjoying the thrill of victory, let us not forget that the globalists are everywhere. They're everywhere, and they are plotting their comeback. They're plotting the demise of President Trump and all of us who believe in America as a nation. I'm talking about the globalists that want one world government, one world economy, and one world currency. They're everywhere. John is one of the people who have broken down their narrative. Yes, John. We have to keep John on air. John has radio towers in 22 markets, wherever you're hearing me. This is valuable content. If you value John's content, support TireGet and all the John Fredericks Radio Network advertisers. Having said that, look at all the news in just one day. President Trump has communicated with President Putin. We're moving towards a ceasefire in the Ukraine. Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, has restarted his war in Gaza. President Trump is bombing the Houthis in Yemen and telling the Iranians that he's going to hold them responsible for any further action from the Houthis against shipping in the Red Sea. The Trump administration has deported domestic terrorists, what he calls TRA, and a federal judge appointed by guess who? What a surprise. Barack Obama, a Yale graduate, a leftist in a black robe. He tried to interrupt the deportation of these domestic terrorists, and, I'm not there. I mean, I don't have any 8x10 glossies. The story around the campfire is the written order came down after the planes took off. The judge wants, an explanation. We have a brewing constitutional crisis between the executive branch and the judicial branch over what? Over the deportation of domestic terrorists and what is an illegal immigrant who is a terrorist owed in this country as far as due process. That is why President Trump invoked the Alien Act, that very old act, which are Alien Enemies Act, which are administration participant Secretary Holman, who's in charge of these deportations, when asked, why are we using such an old law? His response was, well, hey, the Constitution is older, and that's still important, isn't it? A great retort from Tom Homan. The government of President Trump is moving quickly to destroy globalism and restore the nation of the United States of America.